For our assignment, we have chosen to examine the jump math lessons NBT 121 and MBT 122. We believe that using both of them together can provide students with a well-rounded lesson, as one of them introduces the greater than symbol, while the other introduces the less than symbol. The lesson begins with the greater than sign. Students are guided through exercises like number sentences where they work to determine which number is larger in a given pair. Similarly, the less than sign is introduced, and again students are guided through multiple exercises, but this time they are working to determine which number is smaller in a given pair. The activities provide students with a good amount of practice using the greater than and less than signs. This lesson addresses a Grade 2 learning outcome from the Alberta curriculum. Specifically, the outcome students analyze quantity to 1,000. First, it builds knowledge by introducing key vocabulary such as greater than, less than, and not equal, while also familiarizing students with the less than and more than symbols. It also aids students in understanding the concept of inequality and that symbols represent an imbalance between two quantities by contrasting it with the concept of equality that students already know. Lastly, the lesson allows students to develop skills and procedures by engaging them with activities that require them to compare, order, and describe numbers using the appropriate symbols. By actively sorting number pairs, students practice applying their knowledge in a structured way, reinforcing their number sense. Our object of learning is to get students to understand that inequality between two quantities is represented by these specific symbols. While these are not specifically number sense lessons, learning these symbols will help students develop their number sense by giving them the opportunity to compare values and think critically about the size and order of numbers. We believe the lesson designer wants students to pay close attention to the direction in which the inequality sign is facing, as evidenced by the repetitive questions throughout the lesson. Students have multiple opportunities to practice with the greater than sign and then the less than sign. This repetition suggests that the lesson designer wants to make sure that students develop a strong understanding that the orientation of the sign is crucial in determining which quantity is greater and which is lesser. Before introducing these signs, we believe that it would be a good idea to connect students' prior knowledge of the equal sign. At this point in their learning, students already have the knowledge that the equal sign is used to show equivalence between two quantities. Now with this lesson, we are looking to expand their understanding by introducing to them symbols that tell us when quantities are not equal. Connecting their knowledge of the equal sign will help them understand that when there are quantities unequal to each other, we use different symbols to represent it and not the equal sign. If students struggle with the lesson at any point, a way we can provide further support is showing them the alligator mouth method. This method encourages students to visualize the inequality sign as an alligator's open mouth that always wants to eat the larger number. These efforts can get them more comfortable with the symbols and move them closer to understanding that they are used to represent inequality between two quantities, unlike the equal sign.
Next, we'll be covering what the lesson designers hold constant. Throughout all the questions posed to the students by the designers, the usage of the greater than and less than symbols remains constant. Additionally, one number is always on both sides of the notation. This creates an opportunity for students to begin learning how the notation functions by recognizing the inequality between two numbers and placing them on the other side of the notation accordingly. The consistency also lets students know what to expect, so more challenging questions are not as daunting. Next, we'll look at how the lesson designers vary the assignments posed to students and why. As stated in the previous slide, the usage of greater than and less than notation will stay constant. However, how the designers prompt students to represent the inequality between two numbers changes. For example, the assignment starts with a written prompt that identifies what number is greater than the other to allow students to easily place the numbers on either side of the notation. In the second question, we no longer have a written prompt to guide the students in the right direction. Students now have to reflect on the skills they built from the previous written questions and place the numbers correctly to represent the inequality. And lastly, students will not have the raw numbers to complete the inequality, but a visual. In this question, the numbers needed to complete the question are blocks that the students will need to count. This variation in questions posed allows students to progress from the assisted completion of the activity to applying their knowledge and understanding that they have built up to recognize inequalities on their own.
Our goal with the supplementary lesson is to reinforce and deepen the student's knowledge that the greater than symbol and the less than symbol represent inequality between two quantities. Our task is designed to supplement the number sentence task that's in the lesson. The lesson designer made the choice to separate the greater than signs and the less than signs entirely. Our task will have number sentence questions that require the use of both symbols instead of just one at a time. Students must notice that these signs we are introducing to them are only used when two balances are not the same. Therefore, we must keep it constant that the numbers being compared are always unequal to each other. If students were given comparisons where the numbers were the same, they might be confused, as these would require them to use the equal sign rather than the symbols that are the focus of this lesson. It is also critical that students notice that they are using the correct sign orientation. If they use the wrong orientation, their answer will be incorrect. They must know that the small n points to the side that is less, while the larger side points toward the number that is larger. The numbers being compared to each other can be any numbers as long as they are not the same. Using all kinds of different numbers from high ones to low ones gives the task a wide range of variation, helping students develop a flexible understanding of unequal balances. The order in which students encounter greater than or less than statements is not a critical aspect of the task. It is only important that students have the opportunity to practice a good amount with both types of symbols.